That cup of coffee you're drinking every morning, it's only delivering a fraction of what it could be doing for you. And what I'm about to share with you, the wellness industry absolutely does not want this video to exist. Because back in 2023, a group of researchers published findings that should have dominated every headline. They didn't. What they discovered was that mixing one specific powder into your coffee triggers a response in your blood sugar levels so unexpected it left the scientists themselves questioning their own data. We're not talking about some obscure extract buried deep in a tropical jungle. We're talking about something so accessible, so affordable, that no pharmaceutical company can slap a patent on it or build a profit model around it. Which is precisely why the overwhelming majority of people have never heard of it. Today I'm walking you through 5 powders, ranked from impressive to genuinely life-changing, that can turn your everyday cup of coffee into a completely different experience. And here's the part that'll make your jaw drop. When the research team tested the first powder on this list, they ran the experiment 3 separate times because the numbers seemed impossible. That's how significant the results were. But before we dive in, do me a favor right now. Drop a comment below telling me your age and where you're watching from. The reason I'm asking is that these compounds behave differently depending on your life stage, and I want you walking away with information that's actually relevant to you. All right, let's get into it. Number 5, raw cacao powder. And before you roll your eyes, this has nothing to do with the sweetened chocolate powder you mixed into milk as a child. We're talking about raw, unprocessed cacao, one of the most antioxidant-dense substances found anywhere in the natural world. Here's what makes it relevant to your coffee specifically. Scientists at Cornell University looked at what happens when cacao and coffee are combined, and the findings weren't what anyone anticipated. The compounds naturally present in cacao actually alter the way your body metabolizes caffeine. Instead of the familiar spike then crash cycle most coffee drinkers know all too well, your body shifts into what researchers describe as a sustained energy curve, smooth, focused, lasting anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, rather than the typical 2 to 3 hour window followed by an afternoon slump that sends you hunting for another cup. Let's talk antioxidants for a second. Raw cacao scores around 55,000 on the ORAC scale, the standardized measure for antioxidant activity. Blueberries, widely regarded as a superfood, sit at roughly 4,300. It's not even a close comparison. What really sets this apart, though, are the flavonoids, specifically one called epicatechin. This compound is small enough to cross the blood-brain barrier, meaning it gets directly into your brain tissue. Once there, it triggers production of something called BDNF, or brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your neurons. A study published in Nature Neuroscience found that adults consuming around 20 grams of raw cacao daily for 12 weeks showed measurable improvements on memory assessments and increased blood flow to the hippocampus, the brain region most responsible for storing and retrieving memories. How to use it? Add 1 to 2 tablespoons of raw organic cacao powder to your coffee. Critical detail: your coffee needs to have cooled slightly, below 170 degrees Fahrenheit. Higher temperatures break down the exact compounds you're after. Let your brew sit for about 2 minutes. Then add the cacao and blend it with a small whisk or milk frother. It won't dissolve the way instant cocoa does. Make sure what you're buying is labeled raw and organic, and that it hasn't been Dutch processed or alkalized. Those methods can wipe out up to 90% of the beneficial compounds. You'd essentially be paying for nothing. Target dose: 15 to 20 grams per day, roughly 1.5 to 2 tablespoons. Start with just a teaspoon in week 1 to let your system adjust to theobromine, the mild natural stimulant present in cacao. Number 4, Ceylon cinnamon. This is where things start getting genuinely interesting because we're now talking about measurable effects on your metabolic health. A 2020 meta-analysis, meaning researchers pooled and analyzed data from multiple independent studies, looked at over 1,500 participants managing type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. The finding: those who consumed approximately 1 gram of cinnamon per day, half a teaspoon, saw their fasting blood glucose drop by an average of 10 to 11 milligrams per deciliter. Some also showed improvements in hemoglobin A1C, the marker that reflects your average blood sugar across 3 months. Now, here's where most people go wrong, and this one actually carries a real health risk. The cinnamon sitting in most kitchen cabinets is cassia cinnamon. Cassia is loaded with a compound called coumarin. In large or sustained doses, coumarin has been linked to liver toxicity. This is documented in medical literature, not speculation. Ceylon cinnamon, sometimes labeled true cinnamon, contains up to 1,200 times less coumarin than cassia. That's what makes it safe for daily therapeutic use. How do you spot the difference? Ceylon cinnamon typically originates from Sri Lanka. The packaging should clearly state Ceylon or Cinnamomum verum. It's lighter in color, more of a tan shade compared to the deep reddish-brown of cassia. And yes, it costs more. Expect to pay $8 to $15 versus $3 to $5 for the cassia variety. What makes pairing it with coffee specifically powerful? Coffee itself has an independently documented relationship with blood sugar regulation. A 2024 study tracking 15,000 regular coffee drinkers found that those consuming 3 to 5 cups daily had up to 30% lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes than non-drinkers. Researchers also found that coffee's polyphenols can enhance absorption of cinnamon's active compounds by up to 300% compared to taking cinnamon on its own. How to use it? Add 1/4 to half a teaspoon directly to your coffee grounds before brewing. This allows the hot water to pull out compounds that simply won't be released if you just stir the powder into an already brewed cup. For French press or pour-over users, this is seamless. Drip machine users can make a cinnamon concentrate. Simmer 1 teaspoon in 8 ounces of water for 10 minutes, strain it, and add the liquid to your coffee. Timing matters. Research suggests drinking your cinnamon coffee 15 to 20 minutes before your first meal gives you the most benefit in terms of blunting the glucose response from breakfast. Important. If you're on blood thinners like warfarin or any diabetes medication, speak with your doctor before adding therapeutic amounts of cinnamon to your daily routine. It can interact with both. Number 3. Lion's mane mushroom powder. This is where the conversation shifts into territory that sounds almost too extraordinary. But the peer-reviewed evidence is real. Japanese researchers ran a clinical study with older adults experiencing mild cognitive decline. Participants received lion's mane mushroom powder daily for 16 weeks. Not only did standardized cognitive assessments show measurable improvements, but brain scans pointed toward increased neural activity and connectivity in regions typically associated with age-related decline. To be precise with language, this isn't the same as generating entirely new brain tissue, but the observed changes suggested something meaningful was happening at the neurological level. The reason? Lion's mane contains 2 unique compound families, hericenones and erinacines, that are small enough to pass through the blood-brain barrier and appear to stimulate production of nerve growth factor, NGF, a protein that supports the health, growth, and survival of neurons. When you pair lion's mane with coffee, the caffeine-driven increase in cerebral blood flow, up to 30% in some studies, may enhance how effectively those neuroactive compounds are delivered to brain tissue. Researchers have used the phrase neuroplasticity window to describe this state, a period where the brain shows heightened receptivity to forming new neural connections. Separately, a Malaysian study found evidence that lion's mane compounds support myelin production, the protective sheath surrounding nerve fibers that degrades with age, contributing to slower cognitive processing and reduced memory function. Reality check. A 2025 systematic review of human clinical trials found mixed outcomes. Some studies showed clear cognitive benefits, others showed minimal effect. Extract quality, dosage, and duration of use all play significant roles. This is not an overnight fix, but for long-term brain health support, the evidence is worth taking seriously. How to use it. You need dual-extracted lion's mane powder, processed with both hot water and alcohol extraction to capture both water-soluble and fat-soluble compounds. Standard dried mushroom powder gives you roughly 10% of the active compounds. Add 1 to 2 teaspoons to coffee that's cooled to around 160 degrees Fahrenheit. The flavor profile is mildly sweet and savory, closer to umami, and it complements coffee's natural bitterness surprisingly well. Best consumed in the morning on an empty stomach. Effects appear to peak roughly 90 minutes after consumption. Clinical trials point to 2 to 3 grams of extract daily as the optimal range. Most people report noticing improved mental clarity within 1 to 2 weeks. Deeper effects tend to emerge after 4 to 6 weeks of consistent use. Look for organic lion's mane that specifies at least 30% polysaccharides and 15% beta-glucans on the label. If a product doesn't list its extraction method or active compound percentages, skip it. One heads up. Some users experience what researchers loosely call an adaptation phase in the first week, mild mental fogginess or vivid dreams. This tends to resolve quickly. Number 2, creatine monohydrate. If your first instinct was, "Isn't that a gym supplement?" you're about to completely rethink that assumption. Researchers at the University of Sydney administered 5 grams of creatine daily to vegetarian participants for 6 weeks, not to build muscle, but to study cognitive function. The outcome? Meaningful improvements in working memory and processing speed. The most significant gains were seen in participants whose diets were naturally low in creatine, i.e., those not regularly eating meat, highlighting how impactful dietary creatine levels can be on brain performance. Here's the underlying biology. Your brain accounts for only 2% of your body's mass, but consumes 20% of its total energy output. Creatine serves as the rapid response energy currency that neurons rely on to fire efficiently, sustain focus, and consolidate memories. When caffeine expands cerebral blood flow and creatine stabilizes ATP production, your cell's primary energy molecule, the result is more consistent mental energy without the sharp drop-off that caffeine alone often produces. A decade-long observational study following adults over 60 also found associations between higher creatine intake and better cognitive preservation as participants aged. Observational data doesn't prove cause and effect, but it adds weight to the picture. Beyond cognition, creatine appears to protect neurons from oxidative stress and support mitochondrial health in brain cells, the cellular machinery responsible for energy production. There's also emerging research suggesting creatine may support emotional resilience, likely through the same mitochondrial energy pathway. How to use it? Creatine monohydrate doesn't dissolve cleanly in liquid. Stir 5 grams, 1 level teaspoon, thoroughly into hot coffee. Adding a splash of cream or milk can improve both absorption and texture, masking the slight grittiness. Unlike some supplements where you feel something right away, creatine works through saturation. It takes 3 to 4 weeks of daily use before your muscle and brain tissue are fully loaded. Most people begin noticing improved mental stamina and reduced brain fog after about a week to 10 days, with full benefits typically appearing at the 4-week mark. Some people opt for a loading phase, 20 grams daily split into 4 doses for the first week. But research shows this isn't required and can cause temporary water retention and GI discomfort. Starting at 5 grams daily from day 1 is the steadier approach. Look for CreaPure, a German-certified creatine monohydrate known for purity and rigorous testing. Lower quality versions can carry contaminants that trigger headaches and stomach upset. Note: expect a 2 to 4 pound uptick in body weight in the first couple of weeks. This is water being drawn into muscle cells alongside the creatine, a sign of improved cellular hydration, not fat gain. Number 1, glycine powder. And here we are, the powder that outranks everything else on this list. The one with research implications so significant, they're reshaping how scientists think about human longevity. When aging researchers administered glycine supplementation to older adults, they observed improvements across multiple biomarkers simultaneously. Sleep quality rose significantly, inflammatory markers declined, and cellular function showed measurable signs of recovery. Glycine is the smallest amino acid in existence, so structurally compact that it can permeate virtually every tissue in the body. Your body does produce some glycine on its own, but research suggests we fall consistently short of optimal levels. Our ancestors got far more of it through collagen-rich foods, bone broths, organ meats, cartilage. Modern diets have largely abandoned those sources. When you add glycine to your morning coffee, you're supplying a building block involved in over 100 biochemical processes, from synthesizing glutathione, your body's most powerful internal antioxidant, to producing creatine endogenously, to triggering autophagy, the cellular housekeeping process that clears out damaged proteins and supports regeneration. An 8-year observational study conducted in Japan tracking adults over time found that individuals with higher glycine intake showed consistently better health outcomes, with researchers suggesting that optimizing glycine consumption may play a meaningful role in extending health span. The mechanisms are layered. Glycine supports mitochondrial efficiency. It enhances methylation, the process by which your body maintains and repairs its own DNA. It supports healthy growth hormone regulation. Research out of Harvard Medical School found that glycine supplementation improved arterial flexibility, a key indicator of cardiovascular health, after just 12 weeks. But what makes adding glycine to coffee particularly strategic is this: it creates a dual effect in your nervous system. It sharpens focus and promotes calm mental clarity, while simultaneously smoothing out the jitteriness and anxiety that caffeine sensitivity can produce. It achieves this by interacting with specific receptors in the brain that modulate both alertness and relaxation in parallel. A study from the Sleep Research Society found that 3 grams of glycine taken before sleep led to measurable improvements in deep, restorative sleep stages, the phases where your brain clears metabolic waste, and participants reported waking feeling more refreshed without any additional hours of sleep. The collagen connection is equally compelling. Glycine makes up approximately 1/3 of collagen by composition. Supplementing with it has been shown to visibly support skin elasticity and joint flexibility, both of which decline progressively with age. How to use it? Add 3 to 5 grams of glycine powder, roughly 1 teaspoon, directly to your hot coffee. It dissolves immediately and completely. Here's a bonus. Glycine is the only amino acid with a naturally sweet taste. It adds a subtle sweetness to your cup without any sugar or added calories. Timing consideration: 3 to 5 grams in your morning coffee for mental clarity and energy. Many people add another 5 grams in the evening, in decaf or herbal tea, for sleep quality and overnight recovery. Glycine interacts with your circadian rhythm differently depending on time of day, which is why splitting the dose can amplify benefits. Quality guidance: pure glycine powder is exactly that, pure glycine. Look for pharmaceutical-grade or USP-certified powder that's been independently tested for heavy metals and contaminants. No fillers, no flavorings, no blended amino acid complexes. Start at 3 grams for your first week, then build to 10 grams daily split between morning and evening. The safety data on glycine is extensive. Clinical studies have used doses as high as 60 grams daily without adverse effects. Most people notice improved sleep within 3 days. Skin and joint improvements tend to appear within 2 weeks. Deeper effects, enhanced recovery, sustained mental clarity, elevated baseline energy, typically emerge after 4 to 6 weeks of consistent daily use. The synergy with coffee is especially worth noting. Coffee already has a well-documented association with longevity outcomes in research literature. Glycine appears to amplify those protective effects while simultaneously neutralizing some of coffee's downsides, particularly the anxiety and sleep disruption that some people experience. Research from the University of California found that combining glycine with coffee created a metabolic environment that promoted fat oxidation alongside improved muscle protein synthesis, essentially signaling your body to simultaneously burn stored energy and preserve or rebuild tissue. Your morning coffee will never look the same after this. You now have 5 evidence-backed additions that can transform a routine habit into a genuine tool for brain health, blood sugar stability, longevity, and metabolic optimization. Start tomorrow with just 1 powder. Ceylon cinnamon if your priority is blood sugar. Glycine if you want the widest range of benefits. Lion's mane if brain health is your focus. Then layer in others as your body adapts over time. And the combined effects? Researchers are only beginning to map the synergies when multiple compounds are used together. Early data suggests the whole may be greater than the sum of its parts in ways that aren't yet fully explained. Now I want to hear from you. Eric Sinat and I are both curious. Have you experimented with any of these in your coffee? What did you notice? What didn't work? Drop your experience in the comments below. If this video shifted your perspective on what your morning routine could be doing for you, hit subscribe, because next week I'm pulling back the curtain on a specific morning ritual that combines coffee, targeted foods, and a precise timing strategy. It's based on a 2024 study that followed thousands of participants and identified one particular morning eating pattern associated with dramatically better health outcomes in people over 50. And fair warning, it's probably the opposite of everything you've been told about breakfast. That video drops next week. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Until then, upgrade that coffee. Your body is ready.